Air Force for a number of years and did a lot of traveling around the world. And I was young and stupid and didn't take all the pictures that I should, and to give my travels more historical context. And of course now, years later, I'm interested in that, and it's too late. So I started getting interested in postcards to go backwards and fill in the missing blanks in my photo album of all the places I'd been to. And the thing about postcards is the more you get into it, the more interest you have. And now I'm so eclectic, it's like I collect the whole spectrum. Here's an example of what I call a real photo. See, it says there, real photo. And if you look at the sheen, so you can tell that's just like a real photo. Well, it is. And so that makes this kind of a collector's item in itself, just because it's a real photo. And now you look at this, well, this is in Nuremberg, but it's a way of vicariously going back to the 1930s in Nuremberg. Probably because of the bombing and whatever. Probably none of that exists anymore, but it exists in this card. I started with one little niche, and then now I collect just nice images. Billie Holiday, these are what you call museum cards. Some of them done, many years ago, 40s, 50s. Some of the great photographers of the day here. You've got Steichen. I mean, where else do you get stuff like that? You can't get this stuff anymore. I mean, when museums run out of stock, they're gone forever. So, I'm also a photographer. That's my background. So, when I see nice images, I look at the image just for the composition and the quality of the image, and maybe look for the photographer. Another famous photographer, Yvon, that very few people know about, right there, that makes this a nice collector card. And here's another example of how you can find rarities in cards. Now this particular photographer, I looked him up on the internet. Feel the embossing on there, see that? This is actually embossed with his name because he was a private postcard dealer. He actually produced in a small shop his own Paris postcards. Now look at the quality of that image. That is great black and white photography. It was done by this Albert Monier, and that's a collector's item. And this is an example of generations. Now obviously this is more like a 30s card here. Same photographer, but now see, it's not embossed anymore. It's just printed over, and they're colored. Obviously this is the 50s, and this is much earlier. So, these are cards typical late 40s, early 50s. The rounded edges, those were cards done in the early Southwest. There's a whole series of these. And example, here's a photographer that is little known, but if you see the LL, you know that it was done by this famous photographer. And who ever heard of that place before? But yet, vicariously, you can experience this place, and if you're interested, go on the internet and say, well, where is this place? These cards here are what you call linens. Now see, when you look at the light, see the lines? That's actually linen paper that those are made on. And those are cards that are characteristic of the 30s and 1940s. The early 50s photographic process, same kind of venue of cards. Yeah, I get on my soapbox because I love cards. I mean, here's an example of a card from the 50s. I don't know if you remember Marineland in Southern California, very famous place. And here's a 1950s card of that, and a whole generation of people grew up going there, and now vicariously you can go back in time and say, yep, I remember I was sitting right there. So yeah, it's a good hobby. and it's cheap. And where else can you go and get, a postcard that may be, 100 years old for 25 cents in mint condition? That's like a little antique right there for a quarter. No, where else can you go and get an antique for a quarter? I'm going to make a postcard collector out of you.